Is Camilla about to make a radical change to how tiaras are divvied up among the British royals? Yes, we have some really potentially very exciting, so unbelievably much thrilling news about tiaras in the United Kingdom. Now, while obviously it has one of the best tiara collections in Europe, it has been somewhat limited by a policy that I would imagine Queen Elizabeth II took from maybe her mother or her grandmother when it comes to the tiaras within the vault. But it seems like Camilla might be taking a different approach. And I have to say, guys, it is going to be the greatest thing ever. So we are going to get into this today. But if you guys haven't been to Royal Fashion News before, hello, my name is Brittany, and I, like many of you, have a passion for royal fashion. And this is Tiara Thursday. So if you guys like videos like this, we will have a couple of videos on tiaras next month because there are 4 tiara events coming up, literally within 2 weeks of each other. I'm so excited. Actually, they're all on the same day too, or same 2 days of the week. So we have the 3rd and the 4th. We have state visits between Britain and Qatar, and then Belgium and Oman. And then we also have the next week on the 10th and 11th, we have the Swedish Nobels, and then also a state visit between Portugal and the Netherlands. So many exciting things coming up in the world of tiara watching. So guys, stay tuned for videos on that. And I will even be in Europe during those times. And you guys, you can bet you 100% I'm going to try to get as close to the action as I can. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. But don't forget to hit that subscribe button either and the notification bell. All right. So when it comes to tiaras, I actually did a whole video on tiara politics, which I'll link up above, but there's sort of something just general for everyone to know if you are a tiara watcher or enjoy royals. Number one is that there are certain tiaras that are only worn by the queen, and those generally are the largest within the collection. So with the Dutch, it is the Stuart tiara, sometimes also called the House Diamonds tiara if it does not have the Stuart diamond in it. The Stuart diamond is a about 40 karat light blue diamond. We also have the Loschenberg tiara in Sweden, which is a giant sapphire tiara. It has been worn by other members of the family, but essentially is just worn by the queen. We have the 9 provinces in Belgium. We also have the fleur-de-lis tiara in Spain, and in Britain we have a lot of tiaras. Now these are just some of the tiaras only worn by the queen, but in Britain you have quite a few. But it's not because they're ones that can only be worn by the queen, but it's because of how the Brits had previously set up their tiara system. And this comes from Queen Elizabeth II, who probably most likely inherited it from either her mother or her grandmother or a combination of the two. So this is how it worked in the UK. And it works this way in some other families, but more because there's only so many tiaras to go around. And basically there's nothing else they can do except for having the couple that they have. But in Britain, it was really the system of you are given a tiara and that is the only one you wear. So when it comes to Diana, the Princess of Wales, obviously for her, it was the Queen Mary's Lover's Knot tiara. And she would switch that out with her own family Spencer tiara because she thought the Queen Mary's Lover's Knot was a bit too heavy. And she didn't really like how the pearls moved because it does have moving elements with the pearls and the arches. And so she wasn't a huge fan of that. But Queen Elizabeth didn't allow her to do anything else, really. So those were the two. We also have, obviously, Catherine, the Princess of Wales. Now, she has previously worn for her first tiara event, which was her wedding, the Cartier Halo tiara. She has not worn that one since, but while the queen was still alive, she wore the Lotus flower and the Queen's Mary's Lover's Knot. So those were kind of the two that we knew she had. The Cartier one actually went on display and was actually sort of on a tour for a while with Cartier. I don't know the status of that one as of yet. We also have Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh, and she had the aquamarine ribbon tiara, which I know some of you have asked about. There's not a lot of history there. And then she also had one tiara that was sort of an ad hoc thing created out of something that belonged to Queen Victoria. And the women essentially just wore those. Now, when it came to Queen Camilla, she had a couple of different options. She had a tiara that belonged to her own family, and then she had 2 others she could use. She had the Boucheron honeycomb tiara, which belonged to the Queen Mother. So she actually got a couple. She even got the Tech Crescent tiara, which she never wore, which I feel like is kind of a shame. I'd love to see that one again. And then she also has worn the Delhi Durbar tiara, which also belonged to the Queen Mother. So there were sort of three tiaras that Queen Elizabeth gave Camilla and permanently loaned to her. And those were the three: the Boucheron, the Delhi, and the Tech. So Camilla only had those to pull from. She also had her family tiara, and those were the sort of the four she wore. So we had very much this restricted, you could say, system where you had one and that was it. You wore that one or those couple, depending on how many you were loaned, and you didn't really change any of them out because those were yours to use exclusively, but that was kind of it. And some people have said, like Princess Eugenie, she got to wear the Grenville Emerald tiara. And so that was hers now on permanent loan, which probably is not the case based on how the tiara system works. We obviously have Meghan Markle as well in the Queen Mary's Bandeau tiara. And then we had Princess Beatrice wear the Queen Mary's fringe tiara, but that one was particularly because it's sort of seemingly now a somewhat tradition, whereas the firstborn blood princess of that generation, so that means the firstborn girl who is a princess in the family, not just the firstborn girl, but the firstborn princess in the family. So that excludes Zara, that excludes Lady Louise, that title belongs to Princess Beatrice. So she got to wear that tiara. So did Princess Anne, and so did Queen Elizabeth. And they all fulfill that requirement. So, all that to say, what are we getting to here? We are getting to this radical change that we saw with Queen Camilla at the recent diplomatic reception event at Buckingham Palace. And that is because she wore this tiara. This is the aquamarine ribbon tiara that previously has been worn by Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh. And I actually think Camilla looks pretty lovely here. The aquamarine necklace is her own individual necklace that was given to her at some point. She's had it for at least 15 years, but the tiara here has been worn by Queen Elizabeth one single time, and it was previously worn by Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh. But we have this change. Now, there's a couple of ways we could read this, and I'm reading it in the most positive way possible, but sort of a negative way you could read this. And I'm not saying this is true. I'm not saying this is true at all because I don't think this is what Camilla is doing. But you could read it as saying, well, Camilla actually always liked that one. And since she's queen now, she gets to choose that she wants to wear it. So Sophie has to give it back. Totally a possibility. But the way I choose to read this is that Camilla is adopting what I consider the best approach, which is the Dutch and the Swedish approach, which is basically that, yes, there are a couple of tiaras that are just reserved for the queen. And in the case of Sweden, there's one tiara that's particularly used only by the crown princess. But when it comes to the lower ranking, the lesser tiaras that are not queen, those ones can be used by anyone. It just goes within sort of the hierarchy of the family. So when it comes to tiaras, Camilla gets the first choice. And so in an instance, let's say where this is a state visit, and this was a lower ranking event, you could say, so it's not a state visit. Camilla still had to wear the tiara, but let's say this was a state visit and Camilla decided to wear this tiara. Well, then Catherine gets the next choice. Sophie gets the next choice after that. And so you have this kind of cool system where, yes, Camilla has ones that are exclusively for her. Catherine, I think, exclusively because I think of Diana wearing the tiara, it could become that the Princess of Wales is sort of the designated person who wears the Queen Mary's Lover's Knot tiara. I could 100% see that. So Catherine will always have, I think, exclusive use of that one. But if, let's say, the aquamarine ribbon one comes up and Catherine wants to wear it, why, Catherine can wear, because the queen has chosen something else, but the queen chooses to wear this one. Catherine can wear the Queen Mary's Lover, or she can wear the Grenville Emerald tiara. And then when it comes down to Sophie, yes, she has her aquamarine necklace tiara that she is her own personal property in the Queen Victoria's tiara, kind of like a hat ad hoc thing. But she wants to wear something different. And so she goes in and she chooses the Strathmore Rose. I so hope this is where things are going. I so hope this is where things are going. Because one of the things that has become somewhat frustrating about royal watching within especially the UK is that when it came to tiara watching, it could be kind of boring because you always knew Catherine was going to show up in the Queen Mary's Lover's Knot. That was just kind of a given. She always showed up in it. Every once in a while we got the lotus flower, but it was just pretty consistently the Lover's Knot. And not that the Lover's Knot isn't great, but it gets kind of boring after a while because you always know what she's going to show up in because that was the one the queen lent her, and the queen doesn't really do a sharing style system. Same thing with Sophie, same thing with Camilla. But we've had a couple of varieties of Camilla. Camilla has worn particularly this one. Now also Catherine has worn the Strathmore Rose. And this could be a situation where Queen Elizabeth was like, well, it's sort of this dainty thing. I don't know if we want to switch this up. But Catherine told Camilla, hey, I would love to wear that piece. And Camilla's like, alrighty, Catherine, let's get this together and get it on your head. And then when it comes to Sophie, Sophie got a cool opportunity too recently because she got to wear the Lotus flower tiara. Now, this one's interesting to point out because it particularly had the base you can see right here. And obviously this is a screenshot because guys, the British also suck at allowing press into the cover their state events. They should have more because this is the best we got. It really sucks. Anyways, so you can see actually the base around the tiara here is actually a brown felt. So that is actually for Catherine's head. We've actually had another incidence of this, and that was Princess Madeline of Sweden. So for the wedding to her sister, Crown Princess Victoria, apparently she was going to wear a different tiara, and for some reason that didn't work. And so she had to change at the last minute to the co-knot tiara. And you can actually see the dark felt hair base for it that belonged to either or was used probably by her mother, because I don't think at that point even her sister had worn that particular tiara yet. She couldn't change that out because it was so last minute. And we get something similar here with Sophie. So I don't know if it was just a last minute thing or if it was an indicator of, well, this is mostly one Catherine could wear, or if it was something like Sophie's like, well, I want to really represent the guests that we're seeing. And I believe Lotus has a special meaning in Japan. So she's like, well, let's wear this one. And Camilla's like, sure. Yeah. I'm really hoping this is the case. But we do have kind of an interesting comparison as well, which is that when it comes to Sophie and Camilla, they actually did change the base. So the base for Camilla is lighter than it was for Sophie. So we did have a change out of the felt. So this was something well planned. And again, it brings me back to the interesting question. Is this something we're going to see more of? Did they kind of decide all of a sudden last minute, hey, yeah, we called Catherine, like she doesn't mind. Well, let's just kind of figure this out amongst ourselves because I don't think Camilla is somebody who's particularly like guarding the tiaras kind of thing. And not that Queen Elizabeth was, but she was of a different generation. And I really do think Camilla and Charles and everyone are trying to modernize the monarchy in a different way. And I think this is a great way to do it. Changing the tiaras might seem so simple, but it's so good. It's so incredibly good. It's so simple. It's so lovely. And it allows us who are watching to have more fun. And there are so many tiaras within the British vaults that we haven't seen, I feel like, in eons. There is a bandeau with a large sapphire in it. I think it's called the Maria Fedorova bandeau tiara. We haven't seen in eons. What if that one pops out of the vault? We got the Grenville Emerald tiara, which no one knew existed. Guys, I have 2 tiara books here. No idea that one even existed until it appeared on Eugenie's head. Well, we see that one again, the Queen Mary's bandeau. Will Sophie get to trot that out? It has a lower profile, perfect for Sophie. You also have the turquoise tiara. I'm really, really hoping that the turquoise tiara that Princess Margaret wore for a long time is in the vault somewhere, and we shall see it again because that would be marvelous. Because the wonderful thing about the British vault is that it's so large and with a very restrictive system, like, well, you only get this one and that's it. And you don't ever get to sort of delve into the vault a little bit and have more fun. I think really limited what we could see. And so I am so excited for this change. Camilla, please, please, please let this be a permanent thing you guys are doing because it's so fun. It gives us so many more options and interests in what we can see in tiaras. And this might be a process that takes a little bit to fully mature, but the Dutch do it well. Actually, this year we have an instance where Queen Maxima and her daughter, Princess Amalia, wore the same tiara. And I think that's great. There are some tiaras that are just reserved for the queen, of course, but the other ones, hey, anybody can choose to wear them. And I think that makes things awesome. So guys, let me know what you think of this video. Let me know what you think of this change. I'm so excited. And we shall see soon. 3rd and 4th, will we see new tiaras? Catherine may or may not appear. And I think without Catherine, we're a little bit limited in what we can see. But if we see Sophie in a new tiara, or even if we see her in the aquamarine ribbon, we might have an indication of where things are going, because I would love for more fun to be had. Let's have more fun. Let's get more of the tiaras out of the vault, because it just seems like a shame some of them sit in a box for 100+ years gathering dust without being worn, because I'm firmly of the opinion tiaras deserve to be seen. So guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you again very, very soon. Bye.
We don't count the carats, we count the centuries.